Guys, welcome back. It's your girl Toya T, and I'm in my car. I'm doing, I just finished doing some Lyft rides because I was planning to go downtown anyway. I had to meet somebody, and I was like, you know what? Let me just turn on my Lyft app and see who I can pick up on my way down there, which is one of the great things about Lyft, especially if you're doing it part-time like I am, so you're not really pressed about how many rides that you get. You're hearing me with quarters in my hand, and I'm not driving, so you might see people walking by me. But there's a couple things that I think I wanted to make tips for part-time drivers, and I guess full-time drivers can do it too. But I'm not a full-time driver, so I feel like maybe some of my tips might be best for people who have full-time jobs like I do, or another part-time job, or I guess I don't have a full-time job. I guess I'm a part-time teacher. Yeah. Anyway, so people who are doing Lyft or Uber or Sidecar or whatever ride-sharing company that you're doing part-time, but particularly for Lyft, since I know Lyft, this is for Lyft part-time drivers. So one of my tips would be know the best times for you to drive. So and you can get lots of ideas on that based on who you are. So if you're a morning person, or you just happen to wake up really early like I do, so I wake up pretty much like 5:30 every morning, and that pretty much comes from my teaching schedule because I have an 8:30 class and I have to wake up at 5:30 to get to work. So I kind of on that schedule anyway. So now when I drive on my off days, I wake up at the same time, and I try to leave the house around the same time that I would leave my house to go to work. So I leave maybe around 6:30, sometime between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, which means that I'm catching the morning rush hour Monday through Wednesday, which works great for me because you are guaranteed definitely a large number of rides if you do it during those rush hours. So rush hours are always great. Morning rush hour and evening. I don't do evening because I don't drive at night. So the morning rush hour works really great for me. And the earlier you can get out there, the better. Over the summer, I used to get out there as early as 6 or 6:30. But since I don't live in the city, I have to drive into the city. I live 20 minutes south of Boston. So I turn on and see if I can catch anyone that lives in the southern parts of Boston proper. But if I can't, then I usually get a ride, like maybe once I get into the city, like 20 minutes into the city. Another thing, so you find the times that work best for you. Today's a Saturday, so Saturdays are kind of hit or miss. I realize that they do give you an idea of when the best times to do. I mean, Saturday during the day, not at night. Night obviously is a great time for people to drive, and I don't drive at night, so I can't tell you about Saturday nights. But Saturday during the day, they let you know when some of the high traffic time is. So between 9 and 2 p.m. So that's around the time when people are either trying to go to breakfast with friends or brunch, or trying to get out to the city to enjoy a Saturday afternoon or do their grocery shopping. Or you might have some people who are trying to get out of town, trying to get to the train station, the airport, the bus station. All of these things are high traffic areas. So if you can get yourself somewhere close to those areas, or driving during those times, those are also really great times to do it if you're doing it part-time and doing it during the day. So if you have some extra time during a Saturday, you can turn on the app and do 9 to 2, and then you got the rest of your day free like I do. Because right now it's like 1:40, and at 2 o'clock I'm just gonna go go to my own personal go on with my personal day, and still feel fine about it. Another thing that I would suggest would be to find where your hotspots are. So Lyft gives you an idea where the hotspots are in each city, particularly based off of the time of day where they know a lot of people are requesting rides. They are usually areas that have a high number of people that do not have cars. So in the Boston area, that's Cambridge, Brighton, Allston, Brookline, all these areas, like it's super difficult to own a car because there's really no space to park them. So, and they're really close to a lot of public transportation. And so those are also great places to go. Another reason why they're good places to go is because they have a lot of colleges in those areas too. I mean, Boston's a college city, but in those areas in particular, you have, Harvard, MIT, BCBU, Northeastern's close by. So you get a lot of those students that are trying to get from their apartments or their dorms to class or wherever. So for me, I try to, those are great hotspots, and I try to use Lyft's prime time spots as a way to figure out where the hotspots are. But I also have figured out the best spots for me. And I've told people that I've mentored about some of my hotspots, and I'll share it with you too. I'm pretty sure full-time Lyft drivers don't need tips from me. But you should find places that probably are still hotspots, but don't get as much drivers in those areas. So I tend to try to park or drive towards where my high school is, which is in the hospital area near Brookline. So it's an area that I'm very comfortable with and knowledgeable of, because as a student, when I went there, I walked in all those areas. So I know those streets and what it looks like, what kind of people are around during the day. And so it's a very comfortable spot for me. And usually I never even get to drive all the way down there and park. I usually get a ride request sometime by the time, maybe 10 minutes within me arriving near the school, because that's a high traffic area. But I also catch the people on the outskirts that sometimes don't, who sometimes don't always get as good of a driver coverage as people in the downtown area. So I try to make sure that I follow a particular route, and sometimes I'll switch it up. So one time I'll go by the highway, another time I'll go by the back roads, and see if I can catch some of those people. But I've tried, I feel like it's very important to try different hotspots to see what works for you. During the summer, I was parking around South Boston because there was a park there that I could walk when I was waiting for rides. So I was getting some exercise, getting to be outside my car, and still in a very high traffic area where I was guaranteed to get requests. Another thing I would suggest is never to sit in your car for too long. So if you're in a certain area and you haven't gotten a hit in 15 minutes, move on, move to someplace else and see if you have a better chance, because it really doesn't make any sense to stay there if it doesn't seem like there's any ride request. They might be trying to get Uber or something else to get them. So you're better off. And usually when I do that, maybe 95% of the time, if I'm staying someplace too long and I don't get a request and I move on to another area that I consider another hotspot, or just driving towards, whatever primetime area Lyft has kind of identified, I usually always get a ride. Another thing I would suggest is to also stop your car and park. So again, that's why I was saying that I drive towards, I use my high school now as a hotspot, because I know where the parking is, and I usually would just drive to whatever area and park and just wait, because burning gas is just not worth it. Gas is, it's lowered, but it's starting to go back up, and I think it's going to go up significantly for the summer, and you don't want to spend more money than you necessarily need to. So I tend to, and you're being green too, so turn off, don't have gas emissions going into the atmosphere. So sit someplace that is a hot spot, turn on your Lyft app and wait for 15 minutes and see what happens, and you will save gas and put yourself in a great place to make money. So this way you'll make more money than the gas that you burn. Another tip that I would give for part-timers, have a count system. So I just started this, and before I was just driving, from whatever hour to whatever hour, and sometimes it's cool, and sometimes you're just driving, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't gotten anything, and you start to get kind of anxious. And for me now, I still go out during designated times, and I kind of hope to be finished by a certain time, but I tend to now give myself a count system. So now whenever I turn my driver app on, I say to myself that I want to have a minimum of 5 rides. Now, once I reach 5 rides, and if it's, 30 minutes before the time that I said I was going to leave, then I just go home. I go on with the rest of my business, because I know that within 5 rides, I can at least get, at least somewhere between $40 and $50, and or $30 or something dollars, depending on where I am or how long the rides are. But that's fine with me, especially since you don't burn too much gas. and you don't sit there and get frustrated or stay in your car too long, especially if you're not doing it full time. It can kind of feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. But if you give yourself a number and say, I do 5, and in the morning, or 5 in the afternoon, and then I'm done, or just every time I get in my car and turn the Lyft app on, I do 5 or 6 or 7, and as long as I get that number, I'm cool. Then that makes the experience a lot more easier to deal with, because you would have not been driving around like you're doing it full time, and not feeling like you're eating up parts of your day on your days off, but you're able to provide rides for people, make some money for yourself, and not too much wear and tear on your car or on your gas, especially if you're doing it as a part-time gig and not something that's full-time. So I hope everyone is satisfied with some of my tips, or appreciate some of my tips. And if you have any questions, as I've been doing before, please just leave them below, and I will get back to you, hopefully within a day if I'm not busy or something. But I really appreciate you guys, and I hope that you enjoy my videos, all my Lyft videos, and comment, like, subscribe, send to your friends, share with other Lyft drivers, share with anyone interested in becoming a Lyft driver. And if you're interested in becoming a Lyft driver, use my code and I'll have it below. And I hope you guys enjoy your time, and good luck if you join Lyft. Happy lifting, make that money, and pay off your credit cards like I'm doing, or save up for that trip, or whatever it is that you're using this great opportunity to drive yourself to financial independence. So see you guys later. Bye.